biggest election night in Korea. We're live in Seoul with the first exit poll information. This is ARIRANG News.
Hello and welcome to our special election night edition of ARIRANG News. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the all-important numbers. According to an exit poll by public broadcaster KBS, Saenuri could win between 121 to 143. The main opposition Minjoo Party could secure between 101 to 123. The minor opposition People's Party between 31 and 43. The three independent candidates are expected to secure between 8 to 20 seats. The ruling party could win between 15 to 19 proportional representation seats. Minjoo Party around 11 to 14. Let's begin first with our Kwon Jang-ho at the National Election Commission to see whether a final turnout figure has been announced. Jang-ho, thanks for being out there for us. Do we have a final tally?
Yes, Daniel. The National Election Commission has announced a final turnout of 58%. That's below the 60% mark many had hoped for, but it's still the highest turnout in 12 years. It's almost 4 percentage points higher than the last election in 2012 and almost 12 percentage points higher than the one in 2008. That means almost 24.5 million came out to vote out of 42 million registered voters. It could be noted that these are only initial figures and an official tally will be announced later tonight. The province with the highest turnout was in Jeollanam-do province at over 63%, and the lowest was in Daegu, Busan, around 55%. Seoul also had a higher than average turnout at just under 60%. It's been an impressive turnout this year, a sign of perhaps the economic and political difficulties the country is currently facing.
Right, you are there, Jang-ho. And earlier you mentioned a cyber attack on the National Election Commission. Do you have more details on that?
Yes, so at around 2:30 this afternoon, an attempted cyber attack was targeted at the National Election Commission website, specifically a page that help you find your local polling booth. The attack lasted 3 minutes, but it was successfully blocked and the service was unaffected. It's unclear who was behind the attack, but it's a particularly sensitive issue because not the first time election websites have been targeted. A day before the last general election in 2012, the Election Commission website suffered 2 attacks that was later found to be started by a South Korean high school student. On the day of the 2011 by-elections, the website also suffered 4 cyber attacks. This is Kwon Jang-ho reporting from the National Election Commission.
All right, thank you for that, Jang-ho. Moving on, our political correspondents are standing by at the headquarters of each of the 3 main parties. First up, Park Ji-won at the ruling Saenuri Party HQ at the National Assembly in Yeouido, Seoul. Ji-won, according to the exit poll results, the ruling Saenuri Party has failed to secure its parliamentary majority. Must be a great disappointment to them.
Good evening, Daniel. Well, the mood here at the Saenuri Party's headquarters is pretty depressing and even somber, as the ruling Conservative Party is highly likely to have failed in securing a parliamentary majority, according to exit poll results that came out about 2 hours ago. According to a party's election spokesperson, An Young-hwan said, well, the party humbly accepts the results, although the final and official numbers are not expected until later tonight. Saenuri Party officials are cautiously analyzing that part of the failure comes from losing some of its strong supporters, especially voters in their 50s and 60s, following a rather turbulent candidate nomination process, which excluded some of the Conservative Party's most popular and influential local politicians. They also analyzed that many of Saenuri Party's traditional supporters chose minor liberal People's Party. Meanwhile, party leader Kim Moo-seong hasn't yet arrived here at the headquarters and is expected to show up later tonight. Well, that's all I have for now, and I will bring you more updates in a later newscast. Back to you, Daniel.
All right, thank you for that, Joanne. As you mentioned, it is as damp as the weather it was in Korea earlier today. Well, now let's move on to a different side. Now we go over to headquarters of the Minjoo Party of Korea, where our Shin Se-min is standing by. Se-min, give us a sense of what the mood there is like. It's different as night and day there compared to the Saenuri Party, definitely.
Yes, Daniel, an outlook and an optimistic vibe continues here at the election base of the Minjoo Party of Korea, although that moment of cheerful has waned down a little as we speak. Now, based on exit polls released by the major broadcasters, the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea is likely to secure at least 100 seats or even more, a much rosier outlook than initially forecasted by the party itself. Now, that also means that the party is likely to secure at least 11 or 14 seats at most for the proportional representatives. Now, these numbers for the party came without joining forces with the minor splinter People's Party, indicating that the public sentiment this time is leaning towards for some change ahead of the big election coming up next year. The Minjoo Party of Korea, however, has failed to dominate its political home turf of Honam region, as the majority of its electoral districts seems to have been swept away by the minor People's Party. Reflecting on the exit poll results, the interim leader of the Minjoo Party of Korea, Kim Jong-in, said he felt that the public sentiment is a frightening power. Now, although the actual results will be coming around at midnight, if the actual outcome greatly aligns with what the numbers that we're seeing, then heading into the 20th National Assembly, the Parliament will be seeing an overturn of the opposition party becoming the majority in 16 years. Daniel?
Right, and now let's shift our focus to the new challenger. Anticipation is running high for the minor opposition People's Party. Let's connect to our Ji Myung-gil, who is at the party headquarters in Seoul. How are things looking like over there, Ji Myung-gil?
Well, hello, Daniel. As soon as the exit poll results were out, the People's Party was in great joy, as a poll showed that the People's Party could gain as many as 43 seats for this election. Among these seats, the party is expecting to gain as many as 14 seats for proportional representation. According to exit polls, the party's co-leader An Chol-soo is expected to win a parliamentary seat in Seoul's Nowon-si district. Also, the party's co-leader Chun Jung-bae is expected to win in his electoral district of Seobi in the city of Gwangju, located in the liberal stronghold of Jeollanam-do province. The party currently has 20 seats, the minimum number required to form a parliamentary negotiation bloc. Today's election is highly likely to mark the People's Party emerging as a powerful third political party in Korea, which has been largely dominated by a two-party system. Although the opposition bloc was divided at this parliamentary election, the three-way system seems to be working in favor of the splinter People's Party. Back to you, Daniel.
All right, thank you for that, Myung-gil. We'll be finding out how much better the new kid on the block will be as time progresses. Moving on, the fate of the candidates and parties is now at over 250 ballot counting centers around the country, where counting is underway. Our Kim Min-ji joins us live from one of the counting centers in Seoul. Min-ji, I know it's only a few hours into what will no doubt be a very long night where you are. How are things looking at the moment?
Hi, Daniel. The sealed ballot boxes have arrived at their relevant counting stations, and counting is underway as we speak. Now, here at a counting station in central Seoul, the boxes arrived shortly after 6 p.m., but counting started just about an hour ago due to tight security and officials having to check the boxes one by one. But most districts have seen less than 5% of votes counted so far, but I will have more concrete figures in our later newscast. Now, it's no doubt that election workers will have a long night today, as they will be busy counting the ballots into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Now, the National Election Commission expects the final results to be out sometime after 12 a.m. Thursday local time. But we should have a good idea of who is in the lead by 10 p.m. tonight, when about 60 to 70% of the votes will have been counted. Now, for regions with close races, candidates will probably have to sit tight a little longer than that. Now, as to how the ballots are being counted, once the boxes are open, the ballots are placed in machines that will classify them by candidate and party. The machine will also pick out any ballot that has been damaged or marked unclearly. The ballots will then be counted again by election workers, who will be overseen by observers to ensure integrity and transparency during the counting process. Nationwide, there are about 59,000 people taking part in the counting process at 253 counting stations. Back to you, Daniel.
Or arguably the most safe, secure, systematic, and efficient way to count ballots there. Minjoo, thanks for that. That was our Kim Minjoo live from a ballot counting center in Seoul. And now let's take our camera and mics to the streets to listen to what the people had to say during this election period.
상대방의 당에 대한 어떤 그 비난 같은 것도 아직 좀 남아있는 것 같아요. 그게 좀 없어졌으면 좋겠습니다.
서로 양보해서 이게 국민들한테 좋은 거라면 이걸 갖다 합리적으로 해달라는 얘기지.
아이 키우기 좋은 동네가 됐으면 좋겠다는 좀 대표님께 당선되시는 분한테 그런 거 좀 부탁드리고 싶네요. 네.
우리 동네 발전을 위해 여러 가지 공약들을 내세우셨는데 임기 4년 동안 그런 부분들을 잘 지켜주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
통일되고 우리 자식들 잘 살게 그렇게 좋은 나라를 국회의원들이 마음을 합치면 할 수 있잖아요.
경기가 살아나야지 서민들이 살지. 경기 살리는데 좀 주력 좀 해줬으면 좋겠어요. 정치 싸움하지 말고.
정말로 국가를 위해서, 국민을 위해서 참으로 봉사를 많이 해 주십사하고.
자신의 직분이 있으니까 책임감을 가지고 하나가 되기 위해서 더 밑으로 가서 섬겨주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
더 잘 살 수 있고 더 발전되는 그런 의견들을 좀 이 지역에서 나오는 국회의원이 좀 많이 주장을 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
And there you have it. We hope our hardworking and dedicated lawmakers were listening. Now let's turn to our Kim Ji-yeon, who is joining us with the latest results of the general elections. Ji-yeon?
Well, Daniel, it's too early to tell you some specific results as of now, but I do have an estimate for how many seats the parties are up for grabs. And according to all three terrestrial TV broadcasters, the ruling Saenuri Party is estimated to have won up to 124 seats of the 300 seats, the Minjoo Party of Korea 123 seats, and the People's Party of 41 seats. Just looking at the preliminary figures and the minimum number of seats, we can say that the Saenuri Party has failed to win the majority of seats, while the Minjoo Party of Korea has gained the upper hand in the Seoul metropolitan area, and the People's Party has gained the upper hand in the Cholla provinces. That's all I have for now, but I'll be back with more updates. Daniel?
All right, thank you for those updates and those numbers, Ji-yeon. We have live in the studio with us Dr. Se-ryun, professor of law at Kyung University and also a frequent contributor to ARIRANG News and ARIRANG TV in general. Professor Song, thank you so much for making time for us on this very important day. Right, first of all, the early voting and the high voter turnout, they are all contributing to making election history in South Korea. We're making a big noise to the rest of the world, setting a good example. How do you see the high numbers affecting the three major parties and maybe even the independent candidates?
Well, the high numbers, the 58%, probably it's not as high as one would have hoped because we have this early voting. There's fully implemented this year, and 12% of the voters have voted early. So from that basis, probably people hoping that more days, more votes, so it would be higher, maybe over 60%, but it did not reach 60%. I think that there's a general fatigue about the dysfunctionality of the Korean politics. But at the same time, just like some Korean dramas, there has been very interesting and sometimes ugly dramas happening on both sides of the aisle. So parties have kept some general interest up to contribute to a generally higher number of turnout. But I think what's indicating, the exit poll is indicating, is that in that high number, traditionally Saenuri Party voters, those people who are 60 years or older, maybe they stayed behind because of this dysfunctionality and their disillusion. So that higher numbers hides those kind of little dramas that was happening in the voters.
Right. I was at the polling stations as they were about to open the gates this morning. I'm proud of that fact, although I didn't get much sleep. So I feel like it was a dream sequence. And a lot of them seem to be not the youngest of the voters. Maybe it was on election day itself. Maybe it's too early to tell. Certainly, we are making a lot of changes in terms of our election process. Where does Korea stand, in your opinion, in terms of setting the standards for the rest of the world?
I think that our voting numbers have been going up. Not as high as 16 years ago, but it was a special occasion. So that means that the Korean voters are more interested in how the future is shaping up in Korea. And no matter what the dysfunctional showings that we see, there is always an interest that the politicians will make something out of it. They've been disappointing us generally for the past decades or so, but I think that there is a general hope and also desire to see something happening. A case in point, I think, is the People's Party, which Ahn Cheol-soo has led his the new politics, reforms in the politics kind of mantra a number of years ago. I was surprised to see, and maybe pleasantly so, that spirit is pretty much alive, and the voters have given pretty much good support.
Right, we were deeply concerned at first, saying maybe here we go again, compared to the 2012 presidential election, but looks like the scenario is unfolding a little differently this time. So yeah, kudos to Ahn Cheol-soo, the software mogul turned celebrity, turned politician. He seems to be making a good transition there. Very quickly, Professor, what about some of the major impact, like the tragedies over the years? How much do they play a part in evoking stronger emotions and a sense of oneness or sense of the need or the urgency to get involved in Korea's democracy for the voters?
Right. Korea has experienced some traumatic events like Seoul. And also, North Korea has been provoking a lot of the different emotions and crises. I think that there has been an expectation that the leadership of Korea would kind of muddle those through and show some a good future or those future that we can all subscribe to. But I think that this voting shows that the politics in general in Korea has failed in that anticipation. Of course, this higher voter turnout is still saying that, well, you know, show us going forward. But especially the ruling party not reaching even the half point, if the exit poll is to be believed, then it's a great mandate for all the political actors to get it right. And the ruling party is not getting the carte blanche kind of trust or the vote this time.
Right, shifting our focus to the ruling party, the Saenuri party, it seemed like they had a lot of advantageous points, considering that a lot of the crisis issues would actually prompt people to be more supportive of the ruling party. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And also, there's a lot of internal strife and division in the main opposition bloc. But despite that, the Saenuri party is seeing very little reasons to celebrate during this election, judging by the numbers. They're not getting anywhere close to the numbers they expected.
Right. This was certainly the Saenuri party's election to lose, and they did that. They managed to do that. Everything was going right for them. The opposition party was in this shambles. They had the splintered parties. So if the election math is to be applied, I think the Saenuri party would have had a good result. But the Saenuri party on their own had the internal strife that greatly disappointed people. And I think that the disappointment was greater because the Saenuri party is a ruling party and they're supposed to be the one that makes difference in the politics and also governance. And I think that there's a smaller point. I don't know how big this factor was. This cross-voting this time. A lot of people might have voted for the People's Party for the party vote. But when it comes to the candidate vote, if they thought that their candidate in the People's Party would not have a chance to win it, then they might have voted for another opposition leader. In effect, making it a device to consolidate of the candidates on the voter level, not on the party level or on the precinct level. So if that could be studied, I think that will make change and would prompt a lot of different strategies going forward.
Right, we see a lot of green and blue at the moment, but we might see a more dominating hue of red by the time we see the individual numbers, especially when it comes to specific candidates, as you mentioned, Professor. And what about being one of the most wired country in the world? How does that affect the general public support of the ruling Saenuri party? Would the factors like being connected to share their views more openly in public, would that have worked against the Saenuri party in some sense every time they had some stumbles along the way?
I think the Saenuri Party has probably failed in that regard when it comes to communication with different generations. I think they were too busy with internal strifes, and that it didn't translate well to voters' sentiments. And I think that they had a lot of issues they can tackle, especially economics and also welfare matters. And they rightly so pointed out that the opposition party was the stumbling block, and because of the advancement of the National Assembly law, this 19th session of the National Assembly was called the Vegetable Assembly. But those kind of things were probably legitimate reasons to point out that things are not working well in politics, but it's not a good reason for the voters. For whatever reasons, if Saenuri Party has the Blue House and also in a higher share of the National Assembly seats, probably they should have found a way to do it. But that message has been missing. That message has not been effectively came out. And when they had internal strifes, I think that disappointment kind of loomed far bigger to the voters' mind, no matter what happened in the opposition side.
This is a rapidly changing world, and of course, when it comes to Korea, trends move in and out so quickly. And I think that applies in politics as well. And the ruling Saenuri Party, being the bigger party, was at the biggest receiving end of all the criticisms. So it was an unfortunate timing for them, and of course, unfortunate that they could not evolve and adapt quickly. But we'll see if the other parties will be able to learn from those mistakes as the results come out for this general elections. But only time will tell. Hopefully, they will learn and adapt better this time around. So with a lot of question marks popping up during and right before the elections, once the results are out, how do you see the parties making minor changes or possibly not making changes, rather sticking with their guns once it is all over and once they have understanding of where they stand and what they can and cannot do?
Well, I don't think it's going to be minor changes. I think it was widely anticipated that both parties would go through great changes because the ruling Saenuri Party, the head of the Saenuri Party, Kim Moo-sung, said he would step down, and he will step down. And that changes the landscape of what the next step would be in especially anticipation for the presidential election. Who's going to be the big front runner? And because they lost to Se-ryun, it seems like, from the exit polls, he failed to get a seat. It's going to be pretty murky and very dark going forward. I think that the pro-Park faction has lost confidence because they were in charge of the election strategies, and if the turnout is bad, probably they'll be blamed for it. So there are a lot happening in the ruling party to make changes, and we have not seen yet what the picture would be. Opposition party would be probably bigger in terms of changes because Kim Jong-un, he might step down because the election is over. I don't think Moon Jae-in has recovered or gained the confidence from the people, especially the dismal showing of the Minjoo party in the Honam area. So there is no clear winner, and there's no front runner in terms of presidential election anticipation. So because of those kind of things, I think that the leadership will go through a lot of changes. And as you pointed out, I think the people would say, okay, we kind of said our piece about the ruling Saenuri Party, but the big win in the opposition party is not for their own good deeds. So I think that there will be expectation from the people that opposition party has another chance to reform themselves and change themselves to fit the voters' expectations. So
whoever wins, it will be the People's Party, regardless of their name. And of course, let's hope the politicians and the people are not just voting and vouching for changes for the sake of changes. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, Professor Se-ryun. We hope to have you here with us to share some of your pearls of wisdom again sometime soon.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. We'll have more updates, including exit poll results at 10 p.m. Korea time. So do join us then. For now, thank you for watching.